Hey, it's Marthea Pitts, the MSW coach. Let me take a few moments to pin a comment down at the bottom of the page. One moment. And we're going to get started. I want to talk about today about I want to ask a few questions about what is it that you want to do in your career, right? And I'm pinning a comment. Hey, as y'all comment in the room, drop in the chat and tell me where you're logging in from in the world, or give me a 1 if your day is going good, 2 if it can be better, so I know how you all are doing today. And what I'm doing is pinning a comment, and then we're gonna do some coaching today, because I realize more and more that it's not just social workers. People say they know what they want to do for work, but they really don't, right? So I want to help you all tonight. I already have an outline of what I want to focus on. We're going to do some work. So I also take out a pen, some paper, your note-taking device, whatever it is, because we're going to get clarity, right? So I don't know if you all ever heard me talk about career clarity, but what that basically is where you have a clear vision, a clear understanding of what it is that you want to achieve in your career and how you want it to look, right? So inside of my full group career coaching program, the first thing I teach social workers to do is how to get clarity about what it is that they want to do. And career clarity does not start by just going to look on a job board to see what are they currently hiring for and then picking from that list, right? So drop in the chat if you're just coming in, where you're logging in from in the world. I'm going to give you a few steps at once. You can tell me how you're doing today, but we're going to be doing some work. So also take out a pen, find a piece of scratch paper. I don't care if it's a receipt from when you went shopping earlier today, or a note-taking device, because what I'm going to be doing tonight is part 1 to the workshop that I'm having on Saturday. Because a lot of people say they know what they want to do for their career, but I'm learning that when you all say that, and not anybody on this call, right? But when people say that and then I ask deeper questions, they are determining what they want to do career-wise based on the available jobs that they see, or based on what a friend or a family member told them they can do. And if you ever heard me talk about career clarity is much deeper work than that, right? So I really wanted to take some time tonight to help you all, start going through step one of getting career clarity. And the point of career clarity is, it's the first step that you should be making anytime that you are talking about getting a job, making a drastic change in your career, even getting another job. If you know that where you are is where you want to be. And again, career clarity, explained in a very plain language way, is your vision for your career. When you don't have career clarity, what happens is you end up applying for jobs that you don't really want, because you are going based off of what is available rather than you sitting down and thinking about, what do I want my career life to look like? You're picking from a short list. And so, as we all know, because many of us as case managers end up in jobs because of that. Like, you only apply for the job that said case manager. So I really wanted to help you out tonight get clarity to avoid finding yourself in those situations. So I'm going to take you through step 1, right? Part 1 of step 1. So, and I need engagement for this to work, right? Because this is something I normally do on a Zoom call with my paid coaching clients, but we're going to do it on live because I felt like coaching some more today. So what I want you all to do is think about this question, right? And I have my notes, so that's why I'm looking down. If you could wave a magical wand, right? What type of work would you want to do? What type of work would you want to do? How would you want your work to look like? Drop it in the chat because I want to see what people are thinking. And when you are answering this question, okay, I don't want you to focus on if a job like that exists or if it is even possible. So when you immediately think of, okay, if I had a magical wand and what I wanted to do is X, your first mind, like the mind that has been programmed by the world, will subtly try to talk you out of the thing and tell you why it's not possible. I want you to bypass that and still drop in the chat. If you had a magical wand to create the job that you wanted, to provide a living for yourself and your family, what would that be? Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. And I know it's a delay, so I'm going to wait a few moments. And I don't mind waiting. I've been coaching all day. And I was like, before I settle in, I want to talk about this thing. Drop in the chat. If you can wave a magical wand, what type of job would you want? To do what? I want a job doing where I could do X, Y, Z. And so I'm going to wait a few more moments, and if nothing comes up, that's going to tell me that you don't really know what you want to do. And then we're going to get into steps on how to get clarity on that. But I first want to hear, or see rather, if you can wave a magical wand, what type of job would you want? And it doesn't have to be anything in the social work realm of work. It doesn't have to be connected to anything that you've done in the past. None of that. Okay, thank you, McKenna. Education and advocacy. Okay. I like that. Thank you. I'm going to wait for 2 more responses. If you could wave a magical wand, it doesn't have to do anything with social work. It doesn't have to do anything that you've ever done before. What type of job would you want? And so in order for this coaching session to work, I need participation, okay? If you could wave a magical wand, give me 2 more responses. Someone. McKenna dropped hers. Young, is there such thing as a work therapist? Can you give me like a sentence descriptor of what you're envisioning, a work therapist? Are you providing therapist service to workers, to employees? That's what I'm thinking when I read that, but I don't want to assume. And remember, there doesn't have to be we're not concerning ourselves about, is this real? Is it possible? Just write down what you thought of when you heard that question. Okay, Lizzie, research at a university in healing trauma, somatic mindfulness. I love that, Lizzie. Very detailed. Thank you so much. McKenna gave me even more detail. I love it, McKenna. I didn't even have to ask you for that. You said advocacy / policy change on the federal level, okay, regarding education. Can you niche it down a little bit more, just because I'm Marthea and I want to know, is that secondary or post-secondary education? K through 12 or higher ed? What is your focus? Career clarity. And see, this is a great example of career clarity, right? Because if McKenna went and applied, and I'm just going to make this up, McKenna, but still drop. Is it secondary, post-secondary? If McKenna went and applied for a job that was dealing regarding higher ed issues, but she loves K through 12, and that's really what she wanted to do, but she applied to the higher ed job because it was available, the higher ed advocacy policy job because that was available, she would be miserable in that job. That's a prime example of why career clarity, the vision for your career, is so important to keep you on track in your job search, so you're not just applying for anything that is available, and also to make certain that the decisions you make along the way of looking for a job, accepting job offers, interviewing for the job, even when you're getting ready to make some career advancements, some moves in your career, you make certain that they all are in alignment with your vision, your career clarity. Okay, so McKenna responded, parents, teachers, higher ed. Okay, I love that. So that's McKenna's vision. Young, maybe not therapists, but improving work culture, bringing a human-centered practice within the workplace. I love that, right? So, oh, you're welcome, CHA. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Hello, thank you for this. I love that. Okay, mental illness. I love it. Okay, so thank you all for that. So those were the people who shared what they would want to do if they had a magical wand, right? So my next set of questions are for the people who did not drop a response, because that tells me that you really don't know what you want to do, which is fine. That's why we are here today, right? Because again, if you don't know what the goal is, right, you're going to go for anything. So my point of this live tonight is to help you get clarity, which is the very first step before we talk about job searching, before we do a resume, before we do any of the things. So my first question, so I'm going to give you questions to ask yourself. And this is why I asked you all to take a pen, paper, note-taking device out so you can really work through this, because I want to see the responses, okay? The questions you need, there's 3 questions that I'm going to give you that you need to ask yourself to start working towards getting clarity about what it is that you want to do for work. And when you are answering these questions, do not try to think about, is this possible? Does this job really exist? Like I tell them in group career coaching for inside the program, you're going to the weeds. We're not going that far. We ain't that deep. I just want you to think about what you want to do, okay? So the first question is, what do you like to do outside of work? Jot down whatever is coming to mind in this exact moment. What do you like to do outside of work? Maybe you like to take walks in nature. I heard someone say last night she likes to go hiking. Maybe you enjoy the arts. Maybe you go to museums. I had a colleague in DC, and her and her partner would go to museums every weekend, right? Maybe you enjoy that. Maybe you enjoy reading. But when you are writing down what you enjoy, I want you to be as specific as possible. So my follow-up question as an example for someone who says they enjoy reading, what types of genres do you like to read? What are the running themes in the books that you read? Are they fiction? Are they nonfiction? Are they historical books? Are they books about self-care? I'm just making up some stuff. What's the theme in that? I'm going to write that example down because I'm going to come back and tell you why that matters, or how that can manifest into a job or actualize into a job. What do you like to do outside of work? So can I get 2 people to drop in the chat what they wrote down for what they like to do outside of work? Just so I can see where we are. What do you like to do outside of work? Maybe you enjoy cooking. I don't know if y'all know cooking is not my ministry, but maybe you enjoy it. Tell me. I had someone tell me yesterday inside of the accelerator they enjoy fashion, not the actual making of fashion, but looking at fashion, looking at the colorful prints and fabrics. Drop in the chat 2 people. What do you like to do outside of work? What do you like to do outside of work? Decorating, McKenna, I love that one. I'm writing that one down. What do you like to do outside of work? Do you go biking, hiking? Do you volunteer at local community centers? I don't know, I'm just making some stuff up. Give me one more person. What do you like to do outside of work? And for those who just came in, we are working. This is actually something that we do inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator. This will be similar to what we'll be doing next Saturday at the workshop that I'm hosting on helping people figure out how to blend what they love inside of their career. So tonight I'm giving you like a sneak peek, but these are tangible strategies to help you get clarity. Okay, so people being shy, nobody wants to drop a response. Okay, so let's move to question number 2. What do people come to you for all the time? Right, so as social workers, I know people come up to you, but outside of work also, what do people come up to you for, ask you for advice on, or ask you for help on, or ask you, what do you think about this thing? What are those topics and subjects? Somebody drop their response in the chat so I can see, please. What do people normally come to you for? For me, as an example, people, no matter where I was, and this was always outside of work, this is how I knew it was my thing, and these would be complete strangers. I remember one time I went to the local restaurant and my friend brought one of her friends that I didn't know the person, and she immediately started talking with me about like her, I don't even think she was my friend. I don't even think that was my friend that brought her. It was just somebody that I knew from class or something, and I didn't even know that person like that. And the woman started talking to me about telling me the fact that she had just re-enrolled in college and how she has a goal to do this in her career. And she started talking to me about career and education things, right? Which is my area of interest. But she didn't even know me. And that was the first realization that I realized, like, people always come up to me and talk about their job or them being in school. So maybe things like that happen to you. People just randomly come up and talk to you about stuff. Okay, McKenna says ADHD. Okay. All right. And if you are struggling to answer these questions, I want you to spend this week getting clarity on them, right? Because, again, this is the first step to creating a career doing what you really want to do. And honestly, you all are getting like a rapid fire conversation, because we do this over the span of a few months. This is not something you sit down in like 1 hour and figure out. You figure out the answers to these questions through a lot of deep reflection, self-reflection, right? Again, reason number 1001 why I always say, like, there are way more steps that you have to take before you start talking about a resume and cover letter. Okay, so if you're struggling with answering the questions, that means you need to do some deep reflective work. So number 3, what have you enjoyed doing in your past work? And so what I mean by that, and when I ask you this question, I'm not saying that you have to be married to what you've done in the past. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we at least want to get down on paper what you have enjoyed doing in your past work history, right? And so I love examples. If you are new to me and my style, I'm an example person. I am rooted in reality, so I need an example to contextualize what you're talking to me about. So an example of what I'm talking about, well, first I want to be clear. When you look at the work history or the experiences, it can be paid positions. It could have been a volunteer position. It could have been a one-off thing that you were voluntold to do by a past supervisor. It could have been a thing that you did one time 20 years ago, and you're like, I really enjoy doing that. I wish I could do that more often. Right? You could maybe have done it when you were 15 and working at the local hospital as a candy striper. You may have done it as in your internship or practicum. And so some examples is maybe you created documents. Like I have someone right now inside of the accelerator. Every time I meet with him, he creates the most beautiful forms and documents. Right? I'm like, this I told him like 2 weeks ago, I said, this is your thing. Clearly, the fact that you took time to create this beautifully formatted document to respond to the questions inside of the accelerator that I give them for homework, it's color coded, it's laid out, it's beautiful. That is an area of that's your thing. creating forms, documents, and templates. We need to capitalize on that to get the job that you want, right? Because as an example, in macro jobs, depending on the job you want, especially like for McKenna, see, this is why I asked you all to tell me what you want to do, because then I can reflect on it and use it in an example. So as an example, with McKenna, with policy and advocacy, those types of jobs, macro employers are going to want her to be able to create toolkits, one-pagers, white page documents, right? So in a situation like that, my person inside of the accelerator, he would be a top candidate for that, because he creates documents in his sleep that are easily readable by anyone, regardless of their level of need. Okay, so let's see. I see some comments coming in. Okay, Young. Oh, McKenna, I'm stuck. Empowering growth is possible. I'm stuck. Empowering growth is possible. Can you expand on that one, McKenna? I'm sure it's the delay, but and the time delay in the feed, but expand on that. Oh, it's never too late to start over. Okay, I get what you're saying. Young, people come to me to offer a different perspective and validation on what? On what? So the whole process of getting clarity is that you have to be very clear and specific, right? That's just like I can't wake up and say, let me give a realistic example, because I will give wild examples in a minute. I can't say that I want to run a marathon. I could. But what if I end up in a marathon where I'm required, I don't know the kilometers and all of those things that you all say, but what if I end up in a marathon where I have to run 5 miles? I'm not trained to do that. I would like to run a marathon where it's only 0.5 of a mile, right? So you have to be very specific. So Young, I want you to be specific, because you don't want to end up in a situation that you don't want to be in. So you have to be clear and specific with your vision. So people come to her to offer a different perspective and validation on what? Sketch that out for me. What are the running themes and the topics they come to you for? McKenna, it's never too late to start over. Afro, I got so stuck when pondering these questions. I'm so happy you were honest enough to share that. So I want you this week to take one question and focus on it, because it does take time. Again, this is something that we do over the first 2 months of people being inside of the accelerator. We don't do this in one sitting. Young, facilitation, discussions around mental wellness and spirituality. Okay, so that is what you enjoy doing in the past. I love that. Facilitating, I got it. Afro, I enjoy being the face of a startup I managed. Oh, okay. The free community space and provided info about the company's mission. Wow, I've never heard that before, that someone enjoyed being in a startup. Because startups are a constant change. That most definitely is a strength for you. If you enjoy working in a startup, and so you manage the free community space and provided info about the company's mission. I love that. Can you give me a breakdown of what free community space means? Do they have like a space in the organization where the community members can come in and use? Is that what that means? Or is that some type of CSR work? Young, about their relationships, about their inner experiences, major life changes, and spiritual perspective. Okay. Thank you for being very specific in that. Okay. So we went over the third question. So I'm going to repeat it because I jumped to reading the comments. What have you enjoyed doing in the past? This could have been paid. It could have been unpaid, right? It could be volunteer. It could have been a part of your practicum or internship. You didn't need to have a formalized job title or a paycheck attached to it. It could have been something that you did a one-off time, right? So with those 3 questions, and as Afro told us, like it can be a little like, oh, what? We're not going to just talk about like the job that I want and what I've done in the past. No, you have to do some other work. So I want you all to, if you struggle with answering any of these questions, I'm going to give you some strategies to get through them, right? Or to figure out your answer. So the first one is you need to sit in deep self-reflection. You need to sit in deep self-reflection. So that means if you journal, you need to journal it out. If you like to talk through stuff with your friend, your closest partner, do that. So you can hear yourself back, right? If you need to brain dump, just grab you a sheet of paper and sketch out the things, do that. But you need to sit in a space and really think holistically about how can you answer these questions, right? What does that look like for you? And you may have to revisit some patterns. You may have to reflect on past relationships and conversations. Another way to answer these questions is by asking 3 people that know you. And it don't have to be your coworker. It don't have to be people you work with, because they're just going to tell you work stuff. Unless you all are really close. Like my good friend Sharika, I asked her that years ago. And that was when she was my supervisor. We were cool, but we weren't cool like we are now. And she told me some things that I never knew people thought about me. Like, she said, like, one of the things, like, Marthea, I can talk about anything with you, and I know it's safe, and all of the things, right? She brought me to tears. So ask people close to you, when they think of you, what do they think about? You can even like form the question around, when you think about me, what 5 questions come to mind, or what 3 things come to mind? And make note of that. And then once you've asked your 3 people, look to identify the running themes. And there's usually always connections. Either they'll say you are very resourceful, you always know how to like calm down a situation, or you're very knowledgeable about XYZ. They will tell you. And believe it or not, when you have spent the majority of your life giving everything you have away to people, social workers, even before you become a social worker, it's hard for you to identify your personal strengths because you don't spend time thinking about yourself in that way. All right. And so again, these are steps to getting clarity. Clarity then eventually leads to identifying your zone of genius, which then helps you with branding yourself for your career. So I gave you 2 strategies. The first one was self-reflection. The second strategy is ask 3 people close to you. And again, they don't have to be just your coworkers. And then the third strategy is look at your resume. Because there's a lot has happened in the world since 2020. Hey, Dr. Price. Just a note for Dr. Price. Your podcast episode is doing really good. They are loving it. But look at your resume. Pull out a copy of your resume. I don't care what it looks like, what the state of it is, but you're looking at it to jog your memory. Right? And don't read the bullets. Just look at the job title and the organization you work with so you can remember it. Because surprisingly enough, people do forget jobs. It's easier than you think. All right. Just like maybe like you probably knew someone years before and you think hard, like, what was that person's name? I don't even remember that person. That happens with jobs. So look at your resume to jog your memory and make notes as you're looking at it, what you enjoyed about whatever job pops out to you. Okay. So I asked you some very targeted questions. For those who just came in the room, we are working on part 1 of getting clarity, figuring out what it is that you really want to do. Right? And so I gave you some questions. I gave you ways to figure out the answer for those questions because people admittedly don't know, which is understandable. So I want you to drop in the chat one aha moment or takeaway from this conversation tonight. One thing. I know Afro dropped one, but drop in the chat one aha moment or takeaway. Maybe something you never thought about before. maybe something you realize like is a pattern. This way, this is how I assess your learning. Again, all things that I do in workshops, all things that I do in coaching. I don't just give you the techniques and the strategies. I want to assess if you understand what we're working towards here. And if not, that helps me figure out how to tweak what I'm teaching. So one aha moment or takeaway. And I'll wait a few moments because I know it's a delay. One aha moment or takeaway. If you just came in the room, you can watch the replay. I will leave it up, and I do want you to do the work. Oh, I didn't even see. Afro responded. Yes, anyone could come to the space and rest, study, facilitate workshops for the community, etc. The space was beautiful. Unfortunately, the company folded after a year. Oh, yeah, that's the pros and cons of a startup. So they were doing something innovative, huh? They had a community space. They let the people come in and use the building free of charge. That's innovative. Most definitely, but that's the downside of a startup, right? But if you love startups, that's a plus for you. That's a plus for you. So, my takeaway is look at the evidence. Look at your patterns. I love that. I love that. I love that. So while you're dropping your aha moments and takeaways, please do that because that helps me understand, do you need a new example? Do you need a different example? Do you need me to explain something differently? McKenna, I realize I don't have to fit into a box, i.e. job announcement. I love that. Yes, you don't. And so, that reminds me, I wanted to give some examples, right? Okay, so I said earlier, what if you love books? Let's do this. When I asked, what do you like to do outside of work? And someone was like, books. No, I gave the example of books. And I told you all, don't focus on if the job is possible, if the job really exists. We're not going that deep. But I do like to give examples. There are tons of opportunities in the book publishing industry for people to get jobs that extend outside of being authors, right? I was job searching with someone inside of the accelerator who loves reading, and she loves reading a very specific genre. And I was job searching with her, and I found a job where they wanted someone, let me remember correctly now, because it was a few months ago. They wanted someone to assist. It was with a publishing company. And they wanted the person to assist like the publishing team. But it wasn't admin focused work. It was, this person was going out to research like topics or something like that, or like partnership opportunities for them to partner to get in a certain sector. If I remember correctly, it might have been like K through 12 education or like the community nonprofit sector. And they wanted the person to go out to like do research on the internet, computer searching, to identify potential partners to expand this work they were doing internally with the publishing organization. All right, so I named that because that's how I teach people how to create the career that they want to do, around what they love to do. Right? It doesn't have to be social work. It doesn't have to look like social work. You have a degree that you can use to get the type of job that you want. As long as it's not technical, it's not like in a STEM career, medical field, you can use your degree to get any type of job you want. And so I found that job for her, and I'm not doing it any justice, but it was something along those lines, right? And then another example that I wanted to give was decorating. McKenna says she enjoys decorating in her free time. I had someone inside of the cohort, inside of the Micro to Macro Career Accelerator, and she enjoyed decorating. So much so, she's a social worker. She had a whole side business with her sister where that's all they did was event planning and decorating. And I'm like, you can get a job with a macro organization and be on their events team. Like, do you know, like, these organizations, they have whole events departments where they have nothing but people who plan the large annual conferences, the quarterly convenings in DC and the other major cities. They have to secure the hotel. They have to secure the table rounds, the decorations, the tablecloths, the guest speakers, everything that you do for a regular like party that you're having for your birthday. Maybe they have event staff for that. My last macro job, and this is how I know this from my last macro job, the whole events team, they planned like we had a in-service meeting where we all had to go to DC for a meeting, and they had brought in like 5 different food trucks. They created this food truck like courtyard. They had games all day long. We had guest speakers, and the event planning team, the same team planned that planned our annual conferences, where they had to bring in political leaders as guest speakers and secure the hotel. Because that year I created a reel about that on my Instagram page. That was in not St. Paul. It was in Minnesota, I think. I don't know where it was, but it was somewhere in the Midwest. But that was staff that does nothing but event planning, which includes decorating. Because they have to, one, hire people, but when they're having smaller meetings and convenings, they are the ones that decorate the space. Because you and macro employers want it to be inviting, because they want people to be comfortable enough to engage in the conversation. So a lot of money and time and effort in human resources is put into putting and having and hosting events. And the reason I know so much about table rounds is from that job, because I would be in the meeting with the event planning space team and having to make executive decisions about table rounds. That's not my thing. That's McKenna's thing. I don't want to talk about table rounds and mic stands and all of the things, right? But if McKenna loves that, she would have loved those conversations. Okay? So, Young, I love books. Afro, my takeaway is that thinking about these questions takes more than a day. Yes, it does. Thanks for normalizing that. You're welcome. So, if you enjoyed this conversation, drop a 1 in the chat. Well, this is more than a conversation. This is a career coaching session. This is part 1 to the workshop that I am doing on Saturday, November 18th. Drop a 1 in the chat if you enjoyed it. And like I said, this is part 1. If you want to do part 2 to this work, and we're going to go much deeper than what we did here on part 1, but if you want to do part 2 to this work, where I will help you create an actual action plan, a 3-step plan to start blending what you love or like to do at least into your career. That's what we're doing in the workshop. I'm not an empowerment coach. We work, right? So we're going to create an actual plan of action, 3 steps of things that you can do right now in your case management job to blend your love of event planning, blend your love of books, blend your love of whatever you wrote down, okay? And we're going to focus on one thing. One love, one thing, one area of interest, right? Because I know you all are multi-passionate people. So we're going to pick one thing, and we're going to create a 3-step plan of action. Because like I was telling my cohort members today in our live Q&A call, it's my hope that social workers start thinking about what they want to do career-wise while they are still in their case management job. Because that is essentially your training ground for the macro job that you want, right? So you need to be starting now, not when you are ready to hit apply. By that time, you are behind the 8 ball, honestly. Because in order to get the macro job that you want, you have to have established a certain level of expertise around your thing, which comes through time. It comes through very strategic professional development. I've just released a reel about professional development, and it's my hopes that you all start that in your case management job, right? So you have time, you have a learning curve, you can learn the thing, but you also can start implementing it right where you are. Because the biggest plus that you all have as social workers over other people, other master degree holders that want to do this level of work, is that you all work with the people day in and day out. That's the major thing that I used to hear from my colleagues with MPHs, policy master's degrees. They had classroom textbook knowledge, but they didn't have hands-on application. They didn't know how what they were proposing actualized on a community level, on an individual level. You all have that opportunity. So you essentially have to start from the other end of, you have to build your knowledge around the thing. Because to get the jobs that you want, a selling point can't be your passion. It can't even be your credentials, because they don't care that you're a social worker unless you're focused on like a very specific social work issue. They don't care about that. Your selling point is your expertise, your knowledge around the thing, your knowledge around what it looks like on a local level, your knowledge around how it actualizes in the lives of the people that they are targeting. And you get that experience in your day-to-day work. Okay? Okay, lots of I see ones. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Young. What if I'm not in case planning? I'm working as a program development associate. Oh, you're not in case management. I work with non-social workers. I don't talk about it not to confuse people, but I have lots of people who have come through my accelerator, my workshops, who are not social workers. I've worked with former K through 12 educators. One being Trish. I helped her get a job in a corporate setting doing instructional design. I have someone, my friend Sharika, the person I talked about, she has a master's in public health. I work with non-social workers. I've worked with several universities in helping STEM graduates, STEM majors, do the same work around getting change, making careers. Right? So I don't just talk to social workers. So come to the workshop. Well, I did get my MS in macro. I love it. Okay. Come to the workshop. Come to the workshop. The link is in the bio. The ticket is only $25. Y'all will spend that this week on Starbucks. Buy a workshop ticket. It's $25. And as you see, this is a very critical piece. It really truly is. And it will help you avoid ending up in jobs that you hate. Because these are the steps that people don't know you should be taking. Like figuring out before you start the actual resume and job searching. All right, so I'm going to go. I thank you all for participating and for engaging. Have a wonderful evening. If you want to attend the workshop, the link is in the bio. Happy macro career planning. Bye.